You wake up and reach for your phone before your eyes are fully open. You scroll, you check, you fill every quiet second with something. But there is this strange question that keeps surfacing in the back of your mind, the kind you never quite sit down to answer. What did people do before any of this existed? Not just before phones, before books, before money, before farming, before the wheel. What did your ancestors actually do all day when there was nothing to do? The answer is not what you have been imagining, and once you hear it, you will never look at your daily life the same way again. Most people picture early humans locked in a brutal, non-stop struggle for survival. Hunting mammoths, running from lions, scraping for every calorie. A life nasty, brutish, and short, as the philosopher Thomas Hobbes once put it. That image has been with us for centuries. It feels intuitive. It feels logical. But the data says something completely different. In the 1960s, anthropologist Marshall Sahlins published a landmark study that would shake the entire field. He called hunter-gatherers the original affluent society, not because they were wealthy in the modern sense, but because they consistently worked fewer hours than almost anyone alive today. Groups like the Kongsan people of the Kalahari and the Hadza of Tanzania were spending somewhere between 3 and 5 hours per day on what we would call work: foraging, hunting, preparing food. Then they stopped. The rest of the day was something else entirely. What was that something else? It was rest. Deep, genuine, unscheduled rest. Not the kind you scroll through. Not the kind you earn by collapsing after a 12-hour shift. The kind where your body and mind simply existed without agenda. Anthropologist James Woodburn, who spent years living alongside the Hadza, described long afternoons of conversation, storytelling, sitting in the shade, napping, playing with children, doing nothing in particular, not as a luxury, as the default. Your ancestors were not lazy. They were efficient. They matched their effort to their actual needs, and then they stopped. Think about that for a moment. Your brain was shaped by millions of years of that rhythm. Work hard when it matters. Rest fully when it does not. And yet, the world you live in now has inverted that completely. The expectation is constant availability, constant productivity, constant motion, and your nervous system, which is still running on the same ancient hardware, does not know what to do with that. But rest was not the only thing filling those long afternoons. Social bonding was treated like essential infrastructure, not a reward for getting things done, not a break from real life. The actual backbone of survival. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar at the University of Oxford spent decades studying primate behavior and human social groups. He found that early humans spent an extraordinary amount of time on what he called social grooming. In primates, that means literally picking through each other's fur. In humans, it evolved into something far more powerful: language, gossip, storytelling, the exchange of information about who did what, who could be trusted, who had lied, who had helped. This was not small talk. This was the operating system that held groups together. Your instinct to know what is happening in other people's lives is not a flaw. It is ancient. It kept your ancestors alive. And then there were the stories. Anthropologist Polly Wiesner at the University of Utah conducted a fascinating study in which she analyzed hundreds of conversations recorded among the Juhwanzi people of southern Africa. During the day, she found that conversations were dominated by practical matters: food, tools, tasks. But at night, around the fire, the entire tone shifted. 80% of nighttime conversations were stories, myths, histories, accounts of the spirit world, the narratives that explained who they were, where they came from, and what the world meant. Fire did not just warm your ancestors, it extended the social day. It created a second world after dark, one made entirely of imagination and shared meaning. You still do this. When you sit around a table with people you love and someone starts a story that begins with, "You are not going to believe this," your brain lights up in ways that no task list ever triggers. Because storytelling is not entertainment. It is one of the oldest survival tools your species possesses. What else? Movement. Not the scheduled gym membership kind, the incidental kind. Hunter-gatherers moved constantly but in short bursts, punctuated by long periods of stillness. Anthropologist David Reichlin at the University of Southern California studied the activity patterns of the Hadza and found that they walked an average of 5 to 7 miles a day, but not in one continuous push. They moved, rested, moved again. Their cardiovascular systems were remarkable.